Ahora, perfecto.
So, are we ready for more?
Yes.
And you know, it's so short.
Yeah.
You know that in the English-speaking world, when it comes to training, when it comes to training, the session after lunch is called the graveyard slot. So we are entering the graveyard slot. And as a trainer, you need to find something, right? To make people aware and wake them up again. And that's what I would like to do, right? So we have got space here. I think we should have some space. Could you please line up here? According to your date of birth. I don't mean the year. I mean the date of birth. So from January to December. Just get up and So this is the December. Yeah.
28th
December, right? Okay. Very nice. This is the January end and this is the December end. Right? So here you are. I just, it rings a bell with me. Many years ago, I did an English course with officers of the Austrian army, and I'm nowhere near an army person. I was, when I did my military service, I was the last in the rank, and I had no ambition whatsoever. But then I was a trainer, and I had officers in front of me, and I had them standing in front of me. I was a feeling. Now I want you to form new groups. So will you just pair? You've got a person next to you, and there is 1/3, and you a group of 3. Yeah, right. Will you please turn round? Nothing will happen. I will stick a little paper on your back, right? And wait. And that paper indicates who you are, right? It may be, you may be you. It may be that you are somebody who's long dead. It may even be that you are a boy. It may be that you have never lived. You are somebody invented by somebody. You don't know. But then you will turn your back to your partner, and your partner will know who you are. You don't. You ask, who am I? But you only ask yes or no questions, right? And once you have identified yourself, you then change rules. Is that okay?
Yes.
So may I see your backs, please?
Sí, me parece que
How many January? April. 3 Aprils. 3 Aprils. And how many January? January. One. All February.
One, two,
All February. All March. 3 Marches. 3 Marches. What are Marches? Aries. Pisces. Are you Aries?
You have to, we
we have to decide, yeah. And is it, someone I... Not personally. Yeah.
Let's just put your hand aside a little bit.
I've seen you just looking down and spying on you.
Can we check now?
No, wait. But don't look at your own, right?
No, I want.
So, now you know who your partner is. And now it's just yes or no questions, right? Ask yourself.
Okay, have yours, it's fine. You make it.
First or second or third. But that will do. So, you've done your job. So, come on. You need to know who you are. You don't know?
I have no idea.
No idea who you are. What do you know about yourself?
I do.
What do you know so far about
I know
yourself?
myself. I know French. So I'm thinking
Are you still alive? You know, are you so you're a person, a French person. His own name. Whether you are known all over the world and ask perhaps myself, am I a writer, am I a politician, am I an artist, or whatever. And so, you know you are a politician. Yes, no. Well, once you finish. So, come on. Take your seats.
Thank you. Yes.
Take your seats. Right. No.
Yeah, he was an officer in the army. I asked him if he was. It was kind of.
Oye, Salvatore, ¿de qué parte, vale? Vale, claro. Y lo que quería, lo que te conté, se quería coger el tren. Y de que ahora el fuera. Pero eso no primero. Estaba súper tirado. Pero yo sabía que decían nada.
You might feel I don't know. You die if you ever miss your number. No, the aria, rather this aria is the rest. So, here we are now that we know who we are. Let's continue. First question, can you think of using this type of activity in class? Can you think of using this type of activity in your classes?
Yes.
We do.
You do, you actually do. That's right. There's nothing new. It's just up front.
Yes.
Just like a barcode. Yes. Anyway, so before we broke for lunch, we had a little discussion here. Laura and Maria, would you like to raise your point again? It was very interesting because it had to do with what we were talking about previously.
Yes, we were discussing the fact that we think that we pay too much attention to grammar when we are examining our students. We knew that we were wrong, but we didn't know that we were so wrong.
So we expect students to produce all what we teach them, like all the input we give them. So it's like, if we teach them how to use verb patterns, like after like, you must use the ing form, or for the third person singular, you must add the s to the verb.
The rules.
So it's like when they repeat this mistake over and over again, is that we pay too much attention to that, and we have the tendency to decide that it's not a pass if they do it over and over again. So I don't know if that's right or wrong in the case of an A2 level, or
Well, because you said before that you said accuracy ends, a level A2 accuracy ends where people don't understand. That's not what we do. We are understanding what the student is trying to say, but
still, it's full of mistakes.
still they fail because
When we talk about this, how do we handle errors and mistakes? At the levels we are talking about, there is bound to be errors and mistakes.
yeah.
That's part of the level. So the question is, how much do we or can we accept in terms of errors and mistakes? Because it would be not natural not to have errors and mistakes. By the way, there are people who make a difference between error and mistake. Can you say what the difference is?
I think that an error is more like a misconception. You have learned something wrong, and you're using it in the wrong way. And mistake. Oh, okay. Now I see that mistake is not a misconception. It's like, for example, I can say something wrong, but it's not connected to the fact that I thought it was in a way, and now I realize it's something else.
The difference, as far as I have found out about it, is that a mistake is a wrong choice of choices which you can make. Whereas an error is incorrect, but you don't know anything. So, and this is why there is that saying, errors are our friends. Because if you make errors, you show where the next lesson, what the next lesson should be about. And from the learner's perspective, there is always this concept of punishment. I'm going to be punished for my wrongdoings. Right? Now, and I think we should make a difference, whether we call it error or mistake or not, is another thing. But we should make a difference between something that is wrong, but could well be right, or in fact should be right. and something that is wrong simply because that person was very ambitious, was trying out something new. This is why we speak about trial and error, right? So you try something and find out, is it correct? Fine, I go along. Or if you try something and you are given feedback saying, come on, this is not as it should be, you try a different path. So the way we deal with errors and mistakes. And what Laura said made me think of this. As teachers, in our training, we've been trained to be good speakers of the language and to be more or less in control, in absolute control of the language. And we tend to take that system, that concept, and from that perspective we tend to look at learners' performances. And what we see is that the glass is half empty. Probably it's more than a half, which is empty. We are not automatically, for some reason or other, we are not used to seeing that the glass is half full. And in our feedback, when we comment on teachers, on learners' performance, we focus on what is not there. So from the learner's point of view, we know ourselves this is always tough to take, because there is so little praise. And there is that saying, the power of praise. I think we must not underestimate the power of praise. And not that long ago, I've used praise deliberately as a methodological instrument, and it was very successful. I can only recommend. There is something to praise in everybody's work, and probably little, probably very little to praise, but there is something to praise in every person's work. And I think as teachers, it makes sense to think about, how do I sort of praise, how do I accept, and how do I accept the positive aspect of what there is. And that takes us to the issue of feedback and what is linked to it. I would like to very briefly tell you or talk to you about something that in Austria we have designed explicitly for learners at A2, B1 level. For various reasons. Because in the Austrian school system there is lower secondary up to the age of 14, and then there is upper secondary, and this is usually an entirely new institution, a new type of school. And because this is where general education and vocationally oriented education separate. So usually the students, when they come in secondary, upper secondary education, they change schools. They meet new teachers, they meet new environments, it's a moment of change. And we thought that moment of change, usually they have had 4 years of English. And they've, in theory, they should all be at the same level of English, which is A2. In practice, nowhere near. So the thing is, we call that project AOC. Awareness, orientation, coaching. If you go to that website, or if you send me an email, I can actually open that project, which is a closed project, for teachers like you. And there is a complete language test at this particular level. But it's not a test which tests whether you pass A2 or whether you pass B1, but it is a test which tells you where on that scale you are. Productive skills, receptive skills. That gives you your profile. That's awareness of orientation. It's not a test for graduation, for qualification. There is no marks. We call some of the points, scores we call marks, but it's not marks in the traditional sense. It's just, as a result of it, you know as a learner where you are. And as a teacher who gets a new group of students, completely new group of students, at once, it's exclusively online, at once you get an idea where the strengths and the weaknesses of your new group of learners are. That's the idea behind it. And for the rest of this evening, I would like to show you some examples from that. Not to say that this is the perfect way of doing things. It's just another way of doing it, and as I know, as teachers, one is always grateful to have something to see how other people do. And I would like to, in particular, I would like to focus on speaking, in the final thing. So, but before we do that, I give you an idea of what the writing bit is. Here you are. I'll talk you through a little bit, but then we finish with writing. Don't worry, the first page, the introduction, is in German. But after that, it's fine. So I will translate things that need to be translated. The task is such. There are two. Another copy. So, just to give you a little translation of that first thing, it's not long, it's just a cover page. This is what the student receives. And mind you, the result of this is not to give any grade. The objective is just to see where that learner stands. It says, dear student, welcome to this AOC writing check. We call it check rather than test. And there are, this is, in this part of the paper, you will get, at the end of this part of the paper, you will get feedback about your writing skills. So we promise there will be some follow-up. This is not the end. So, there are 4 parts. You should work on all these 4 parts. And from then on it's English anyway. Fill in a form, write a note, write a Facebook comment, and write an email or a blog. These are the formats we can expect at that level of competency. It's not to write an essay. You can't expect somebody to write a proper essay at that particular level. So there's the timing, and now we move on, and it's just, I don't ask you to do it now, by no means, right? It's just to give you an idea of what's going on. Remember, and just think of the descriptors we had, we looked at this morning. When you said it's familiar, it's close to you, it's self-centered, but it should be clear, nevertheless. Not a lot of language, not a big range of vocabulary, but something that is close to you. First thing, easy, fill in the form. it's a bit of a warm-up exercise actually, right? To make students familiar with that type of paper. So there's not a lot of things to do. But what is your favorite band? Why do you like it so much? Why should you get the tickets for the festival? Who would you take with you and why? And so forth. So it's about friends, about self, about hobbies, about interests, about likes and dislikes. Second, very similar to the task we looked at earlier. You've got some kind of input, and there are bullet points, various aspects to be dealt with, to be covered, so we can actually assess coverage. Have all those points been addressed or not? Assistant teacher from English has helped you with the presentation about Scotland. You've just given the presentation, write her a note and say thank you. Include information about, to 4 points. How you feel about the presentation now, the photos you got from her, etc., etc. So this is this particular task. Task 3. Facebook. Write a Facebook comment. Well, you may say this is relevant to your students, you may not. Anyway, it's got some kind of input, which is photos and which is text, and then you're expected to write some comment. And finally, an email or a blog. In that case, it is a message. You came home a week ago from a 4-week stay with the Millions of English family, and so on. I don't read that out. It's a different format of text. It's writing to somebody you have stayed with, a family, a host family. That means that you are on personal terms, but there is still probably different age. And so it's a slight indication of you don't write among mates and pals, but you write to your family, your former host family. Tell them, etc., etc. And then, for the teacher, a little score here. 4 categories. Number 1, task achievement, meaning from the perspective of the reader. Does the text make sense? Has the task been achieved? How well is the text organized? Is it chaos, or is there some structure in it? Range. Remember, as a result, we want to know where the student is on that scale from A2 to B1. And so, with basic range, we will identify basic range. With more richer vocabulary, we will take that into account as well, and accuracy. So there is no mark. It's just some very simple kind of profiling which can be taken as a result. Take a moment or two to look at that, probably once again, while I prepare the following slides. If you have questions or comments to make, just let me know.
Pardon?
Is there a set of marks for each activity, or is there only one?
That's for, no, there's not separately. This is the overall
So how,
English,
for
yeah?
example, with one class, or fantastic school example, but the rest of them are well done, for example, in one like activity, how is it different? Is it like 2.5 points per class?
Well, it's probably, sorry, here for instance, well, even here you can look at the range and that sort of thing, but not so much as organization. If you look for watch out for organization, you probably take other
So the thing is,
tasks,
but each person will organise themselves, each teacher will organise it, how they're going to correct.
Of course, yes. Any comments you would like to make? Let's just ask for your tips. Somebody would like to make. Myra.
Yeah, I was just trying to think how to put things together. The thing is that we're commenting, for example, about the fact that here accuracy is awarded with 10 points, same as others. For example, task achievement, organization, range, and accuracy. So we were just wondering if, for example, when we reach a certain, all the more demanding levels, if certain mistakes should not be taken into account in a different way, like for example, to consider them more seriously. And well, what I was saying is that maybe we are now dealing with A2 and B1, and then accuracy has got a specific importance. But maybe if you're a C1 and make systematically a lot of errors, that's a different ballgame.
That's different.
That's different.
Now, if you look at the last page, thank you for making this remark. If you look at that last page, this is not points. They are added in the end, yes, but this doesn't lead anywhere really. But if you say, if as a result, for instance, in that particular paper, you've got 3 out of 10 for accuracy, you have got something to talk about. That's the main reason why that is. If you've got 9 in terms of organization, 9 out of 10, or even if you've got 7 out of 10, you've got something to talk about and say, look, from what you've written, I can see that you can organize your written text quite well. So this is just the teachers help the teachers, because in the end you've got 30 papers with 25 and this is your help to say, when I now talk with my students, this is what I refer to. Pardon?
30 or 100? Yeah, 70.
It was, the whole thing was conceived for a particular situation, a particular setup. I understand. Well, if it's 100, things need to be dealt with differently. This is quite
150?
150, right?
160.
So, but anyway, if you, in some way or other, let me have your email addresses, I can make sure that you have access to this, and you can do the entire test for yourself, and you will get feedback, right? You will get feedback. But one thing is, and this is funny, have you ever tried doing yourself, doing an A2 test?
Yes. Before our students.
Have you ever, yes, before students do it, just to see whether this works, whether it makes sense or not. But have you ever tried not an A2 test in English?
I did a TOEFL writing assessment recently, the online practice test.
Yeah.
I got 0 marks out of 10.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was. You had to write. They give you a photograph two words, and you have to write two sentences using those two words or a derived form of those two words.
Okay.
And I didn't get any of them right. Because, for example, if I put a man is showing a woman a photograph, then the correct option included the man is showing the woman, or there were kind of several options, but the option of a man is showing a woman wasn't there.
What's
So I
that?
got to
All right.
So I was wondering
Yeah, those are the
about
tricky. Those are the tricky things. Anyway.
But it's supposed to be marked by the computer, you see, it's all automatic.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
it's not marked
there
by-
is a limit. There is, let's face it, there is a limit what you can do with computer-based marking. Right? After all, there are things that you can't computer mark until further notice. So, why don't we move on to speaking? So I just tell you what I have in my pack. I would like to talk a little bit about what is special about speaking, because I think this is something that we need to be aware of before we can actually go into assessing speaking. And then I've got 2 videos with candidates who do that A or C speaking bit. And together we will look at the criteria of observation, and you will then, before I do, you will then assess the candidates, and let's see where that takes us. And give feedback, which is important. So, about speaking. What's special about spoken language as compared to written? Right? Just shout out, what's special about speaking in comparison to writing? Spontaneous.
Real time,
Pardon?
It takes place in real time, there's no time to interrupt.
You can correct yourself if you make a
It's-
mistake.
Well, there is some writing which is close to real time, and that is email. Once you press the same button, you can't get it back, right? It's gone. Anyway, lots of things special about spoken language. First, there is 2 skills, which are rather different. Spoken production, as we call it, and interaction. What is the difference? Not new to you. Production is, keyword, formal presentation. It is something which is organized. Other than spoken interaction, it is usually timed. You've got 10 minutes, you've got 2 minutes to talk about it. It is prepared, even if there is not much time for preparation. But normally if you get a topic to talk about, normally you've got some time to get sorted. Right? If it is a minute, you can make 1 or 2 notes, so that you don't kick off immediately. But in interaction this is different. You speak immediately. It has that presentation character. Monologue, presentation. So clearly, a good presentation has certain characteristics which are special to that skill, which is probably not applicable to the interactive skill. Just think about organization, for instance, structure. Interaction, for instance, is usually open. May take you from here to there. It's not topic focused in the traditional sense of the word. It's spontaneous, and it is always a give and take, an exchange. So it's as the cartoonist puts it, it's 2 people trying to make the bulb come a light, right? Right. Two people discuss something so that in the end there is something which shines. Here we are. But there is another aspect which we tend to neglect a little bit every now and then. And that is the fact that all speaking has an audience, unless you sing to yourself in the bath under the shower. But even then, you are your own audience, and you say how terrible you sing. But it's what somebody called a common social activity. Successful speaking. The success of speaking is in the ear, brain, and heart of the listener. If you don't reach the listener in a presentation, you fail. If you don't reach the listener in some kind of dialogue, you come to a standstill. So the success is in the perspective of the listener. So one person's listening comprehension meets another person's speaking skill. And there may be misconceptions, there may be mismatches. So good speaking includes comprehension check. If I talk here in this room, if I keep talking about what is so special about speaking, and I look into your eyes and I see a blank, and if I'm not too tired, I will ask, did I make myself clear? Does that make sense? I want to check, are you still on board? Or have you left? So good speaking includes comprehension check, because only comprehension ensures success. Here we are. Any comments? No. Now my question. What makes a good presenter and a good communicator? It would be nice if you spend 2 or 3 minutes talking that, jotting down a few ideas, and then come up with what you think makes a good presenter. A presenter is somebody who stands up, and the thing I've been doing the last 5 minutes. Get up, stand up, and present something. The special thing, especially about speaking. Books, yeah. Start with whichever you like, right? And it's presenter or communicator. There are some things that overlap anyway. But the question is, what in your makes a good presenter, and what makes a good communicator? Presenter meaning what I was thinking of well, first thing for there is organization. I have to talk to you a lot, right? How you do? Right? So, does that make sense?